Hello.
There's the guest of honor.
Not a good start to the meeting.
Wrong jersey, but the right guy.
Yeah, that's the right jersey. I think we just won the World Series, didn't we?
AJ's right here.
All right, well, let's have the host start the interview.
Okay, so we thought we would have this interview because AJ had the idea. I brought a New York Yankees baseball home, an authentic one, and he said, you know what, didn't you have an uncle that played for the Yankees? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I did. And he was like, well, we should get him online and do a Zoom call with him. And so I said, yeah, that would be cool to do. And so this is May 11th, 2020. And we've got Mike, Uncle Tom, Tyler, and Ron, Uncle Jim, and Ron. And we're going to talk about baseball. And maybe, Uncle Mike, you could start out with the whole story of how you became a Yankee.
I became a Yankee?
Yeah.
Well, we moved to Beloit.
Beloit Yankee.
Yeah. Moved to Beloit. We played Little League ball out there. In fact, it was the inaugural Beloit Little League team. Before that, all they had was the little rec teams, you know, where you wore T-shirts and caps. So this one was, they built a stadium, a parade all through downtown Beloit, and drove all the way up past the old swimming pool right to the stadium at the edge of town. It just so happened that the team we played on was the Yankees, so it was kind of an omen of things to come. But Jim, Ron, and I were all on the same team. So Ron is a 10-year-old, Jim 11, and me 12. So it was actually pretty cool. I would have to believe it's the only time in history where they had three different brothers at three different age groups on the same team. So it was pretty exciting, a lot of fun. In fact, when I was a 12-year-old, we won the championship on the west side. The Beloit is east side, west side. We won the west side championship, played for the overall championship, where we won that as well. So the batting title, I was competing with a guy on the Braves. His name was Jerry Kenny, and he ended up signing with the Yankees also, played third base, made it to the majors, played third base for them. Well, I actually won the batting title. He finished second. So when I saw Jerry many years later in the major leagues, I saw him in one of our training camps, rub it in his nose a little bit that, you know, I won the batting title. So it was pretty cool. You know, my future was pretty well laid out for me, but, you know, every kid dreams of playing Major League Baseball, especially in those days. You know, there wasn't a day. It was either baseball, football, or basketball. And in our case, coming from an athletic family, Jim, Ron, and I being the last three with a family of 8 boys, we played all 3 sports. So baseball season came around, we put away the basketball, picked up the glove. Baseball season's over, we put down the glove and picked up the football. So that was the way we did it. I think you get more well-played every day in the summer. We played baseball. We had a junior high school that was right across the street from our grade school, and they had a ballpark there, and we used to play there all the time. So we would play pickup baseball. We didn't have enough guys to organize 2 teams. We would play what they called scrubs, so you kind of rotate around. You have 2 or 3 guys batting, and the other guys all playing in the outfield. And when you make an out, you know, you get 3 outs or whatever, you just kind of rotate. So it's like 3-man teams competing against the other 3-man teams, and whoever scores the most runs. But we would go there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would leave when it got dark at night. So
I think we invented the shift then. So
yeah,
because we played on half the field.
We invented the shift, and not by choice, but we only had 1 guy on the left side and 1 guy on the right side and 2 outfilders.
So you had to declare if you're going to hit the left field or right field.
Right. Yeah, there were times when we played, the teams were so short that you had to hit on either the left side, the second base, or the right side. In Buffalo, we lived there was a cement porch, like just a single block. Well, it was a step up. I don't know where this game came from, but if we created it or if we just picked it up from some of the older kids in the neighborhood. But we used to take a tennis ball and we would throw it against what we called the stoop. It was called stoop baseball. Step or platform going into the house. So you got a flat area at the front of the step, and then the step angles off. So you actually have that 90-degree crease running all the way across the top of the thing. Well, the ideal was to hit that right square at the crease, because then that would launch the ball in the air and you could hit home runs that way. Otherwise, you would bounce it off the flat side of the step and you would hit ground balls. So one guy would be the batter. All he does is stand in front of the step. He throws the ball against the step. The other guy is the fielder. And it was usually one-on-one. Sometimes it'd be two-on-two. Even on one-on-one, what you're trying to do is sense where the fielders are at. You try to throw the ball to the other side of the step so it gets by the fielder. Anything that gets by him is a single. Then we had rules for doubles, and the second thing was the home runs. And it was amazing how skilled we got at hitting that very top edge of the stoop and launching some pretty long fly balls. It would literally, we had a street running in front of our unit, and there was another unit on the other side, but we used to hit them over the street and into the other house across from us. So that was pretty cool.
The scoring part was that if you hit the stoop and it was a ground ball, the first infielder would have to pick the ball up, throw it to the stoop, and catch it for an out. Like you're throwing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't necessarily have to catch it, but what you had to do is you had to hit the stoop from where you caught it. If you hit the stoop, it was an out. If you missed the stoop, then it was a base hit.
Yeah, you'd be able to get a double play if you caught it, and then you guys on base.
Yeah. So what Ron and Jim are saying is that if you're in the field and the guy's got a runner on first, you could catch the ball in the air for a fly ball, and you could throw it off the stoop. That would be a double play. Or you could catch a ground ball and then throw it off the stoop. If you were able to hit that angle where it would hit a fly ball back to you and you caught it, that also would be a double play. And we played this thing again day and night, and that's why we got so skilled at it. In Buffalo, we used to play stickball, which again, we would just go out in the street with a broomstick. We would literally set up bases, and this is when we'd have teams. You know, all the neighbors. Did we play that stickball with a rock or with a ball? All the neighbor kids would come out, and again, we would play with a tennis ball. And you'd throw the stickball. Sometimes you see it in old movies. The kids in New York City used to play it all the time in the streets. You'd literally use like a broom handle or anything you could find to hit with and play with the tennis ball. You'd have a pitcher and the batter and, the catcher. You'd have all the positions, and you would just play a regular, legitimate game of baseball. The last thing we had was what we called strikeout. We used to go to the school and we would draw a strike zone on the building. And then the guy would go up and bat and the other guy would pitch, and you'd try to strike him out, or the guy would try to hit it. So that's where we developed all of our arm strength, our eye-hand coordination, where we learned to keep our eye on the ball. If you didn't keep your eye on the ball, you're never going to hit it. The biggest weakness with all young players is that they tend to pull the head out, so they take their eye off the ball and they swing and miss. They can't understand how they swing and miss at a pitch, but it's because they're pulling their head and taking their eye off the ball. When you play strikeout, you learn real quick to keep your eye on the ball. Otherwise, one of my biggest thrills was actually meeting Mickey Mantle. I got called up, and it was a weekend. I think I actually arrived there, like we were playing a doubleheader against Baltimore. When I went to the stadium, I'm thinking my whole life, all I ever said, I just wanted to put on a uniform and sit in the dugout one day with all these Major League ball players. Couldn't wait to get to the stadium, meet all these guys that were my idols growing up, and, pretty exciting. And, Bobby Richardson and Whitey Ford and Kubek and all these guys. So when I got to the stadium, it was no big deal. It was just like meeting another ball player. We're putting our uniforms on. It's the same environment that we grew up in, our locker room and the ball field. My locker is next to Whitey Ford's, and, he's a Hall of Famer. It was a thrill meeting him, but it just wasn't. The only guy that he didn't meet before the game was Mickey Mantle. And the reason you can't meet him is because he was always surrounded by reporters. He'd get out of his car and they would circle him and follow him all the way into the locker room, asking. And his locker was the last one before the training room and the showers. Didn't have an opportunity to meet me before the game. Well, just so happened that I pitched in the second game of that doubleheader. And then after the game, we go to the locker room, games are over. I'm going to the locker or to the shower to take my shower. And I just have Mickey Mantle says, "Hey, Mike." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, anyway, he said, "I just wanted to apologize.
Mickey Mantle will finally apologize to you.
For not introducing myself before the game. It was really weird. I didn't know what to say. He said, "My name is Mickey Mantle," and the only thought that came to my mind was Mickey who, and I don't even know if I really said that or didn't say it. All I do know is that I had so many goosebumps on my body, I couldn't hide the excitement. But this was the rush that I actually expected to get when I met everybody. One of my biggest thrills in baseball, and it was just meeting the guy. So then they were going to have Mickey Mantle Day. You know, they got 60,000+ people in the stands, and, you know, Mayor John Daly was there, Bobby Kennedy was there, Frank Sinatra was there, and all these celebrities that wanted to be part of it. And in the locker room before the game, I said to Mickey, and he said, "Yeah, what?" And I said, "Can you do me a favor and just work my name into your speech somehow?" And he got a big kick out of that. He said, "I'll be sure I do that." And he was really nervous about it. So he wrote out his speech and he put it in his hat. And when he went out to the field to give his speech, I think somebody grabbed his hat and took it. So then he had to give the speech without his notes and things. So it was pretty difficult for him and stuff. But
Where did you live when you played for the Yankees?
when I played for the Yankees, I had a brother named Jack that lived in New Jersey, and it was just right across the river. So we used to just take the George Washington Bridge, or you could take the tunnel. Jack was there, so it made it real convenient for me. I used to carpool with Bobby Richardson and a couple other ball players that lived in New Jersey as well. So they would always come and pick me up at Jack's, and we would carpool to the ballpark together. So it was fun.
AJ was asking, was it weird when someone first asked you for an autograph?
Was it weird? No, because when you go to spring training, they're always asking you, and I mean, they don't care who you are or what, as long as you have a uniform on, they just want your autographs. You get used to that pretty quick. But what was interesting was that, you know, the whole time you're walking into the stadium, you're signing autographs, and afterwards you're signing autographs. But when you got into the locker room, they used to have boxes and boxes of baseballs there. So you had to sign these baseballs every day. It was part of, and every day when you came in, we probably had to sign about 5 or 6 dozen balls. The interesting part there is Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford didn't really like being a part of all of this because they've been doing it for 15 plus years, and just got tired of it. So we had 2 clubhouse guys, Big Pete and Little Pete. They used to sign the balls for Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford, and their autograph was, I'm telling you, spot on. You could not tell the difference between Mickey's autograph and when at the end of the season, I grabbed a handful of balls and I went to them personally to sign it along with all the rest of the players, because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't Big Pete signing Mickey's name or Little Pete signing Mickey's name. So,
but you signed right out of high school, so
I did. I signed when I was 17.
So how did that happen? Were you guys at the house when this happened, Jim and Ron?
Oh, yeah.
Mike, the high school coach, was a scout for the Milwaukee Braves. And so none of the other teams would come after him because they thought it was an automatic that he would sign with the Braves.
He was actually what they call a bird dog. They have scouts. Andy Pafko was the actual scout. My baseball coach was what they call a bird dog. So they find ball players and then they recommend them to the scout, and then the scout will come into town. And anyway, I moved to Milwaukee when I was a junior in high school. When I graduated from 8th grade, Grandma and Grandpa gave me the choice to move to Milwaukee then and live with my dad and Barbara. So I said, I'm going to wait. I want to be with my friends. I want to be with my family. So that was why I didn't move till my junior year. When I got there, I was late. The same day that I went there, they were handing out uniforms and things. And I don't know if this part of the story is true or not, but this is how I've always told the story. But I literally had to hitchhike to Milwaukee to get there because I didn't have any other way to get there. My dad and my sister were already there, and everybody else was in Beloit. My mom doesn't drive. So when I hitchhiked, I actually went right to the high school from Beloit.
The baseball coach was also the football coach.
Yeah, so the baseball coach is also the football coach. When I get there, 14 years old, So I get to the high school, and this coach is all over me. Why are you late? Why, you're supposed to be here this time, whatever. And I said, I'm sorry, coach. I literally had a hitchhike here from Beloit. My family hasn't moved here yet, but I didn't want to miss, starting with the rest of the kids. So I hitchhiked right to the school, and here I am. I'm sorry, I'm here to pick up my uniform. And the only thing you had to do that day was pick up your uniform and take your physicals. It wasn't like I was missing. He gave me an unbelievably hard time. So what position did you play, when you were in Beloit? And I said, well, because I was smaller. When I graduated from 8th grade, I was only like 5'8". I played quarterback in my first couple of years at Beloit Catholic. And then when I went to Milwaukee, I said, yeah, I played quarterback. He said, well, where did you start? And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, okay, well, just because you were a starter there doesn't mean that you're going to be a starter here. I said, you know what? I just want to play football. I'm just out here to pick up my uniform. So I don't have any expectations other than go out there. I'm going to play hard, and what happens, happens, Well, I later found out that this coach, his first love was baseball. He always wanted to play Major League Baseball. He went into the war. He had to go to the war for World War II, and he got shot had an injury that ended his career, sports-wise and stuff. So he's a little bitter about that. But what he was even more so upset about is that as a coach, he had always wanted to win a state championship in baseball. Well, the closest he came, he was coaching Waukesha Memorial, and they played against Beloit Catholic. I just happened to be associated with the school that he hated because they denied him an opportunity to win a championship. So the whole time he always gave me a hard time, playing football. In fact, when I was a junior, I was also the punter on our team. I was a tight end and the punter. And about the second or third game of the year, we were playing against Messmer High School. So I'm going to start giving you all these little connections here. Fran's first wife went to Messmer High School, but they had a guy by the name of Tom Flynn that was an unbelievable basketball player. In fact, he went to Marquette and started for them as a freshman. But he also was a football player. He was 6'5", weighed about 245 pounds, but he was a defensive back in football. So I went out and caught a pass one time, and the ball was overthrown. And I didn't want to dive for it to catch it. I thought I can still catch this thing, at my fingertips and just try to regain my balance. So I caught the ball, tried to regain my balance. I planted my foot to get my balance. And just as I planted my foot, he believed in tackling people by jumping on top of their head and just squishing them down into the ground. Well, just as I planted my foot, he jumped on top of me, and my leg actually bent backwards instead of forward. So I hyperextended it, but it was dislocated, and I was on the field with my leg. Actually, you could see that. So in those days, if you were hurt, you had to pad at the top of your helmet to let the coach you were hurt, so they would know that you're not just, minor injury or whatever. They came out, the doctor reset my leg and this and that, whatever. Well, the next day, I couldn't even straighten out my leg. It was bent so bad, and there was so much swelling in there. I went to the doctor the next day, and he drained the leg. They had to drain it 2 or 3 times during the week. There was so much liquid in there that what he would do is put a syringe in there, unscrew the syringe, and just let the needle serve as a tap in my leg, and just put a bowl under it and just let it all drain out. Anyway, so, we always just grew up, that, you just work through everything, you play through everything, and no such thing as an injury that's going to keep you out. My doctor said, don't even bother to go to school this week. You want to stay off your knee or whatever. Well, I went to school anyway with crutches and things, I can get around in crutches and stuff. But I didn't go to football practice on Monday because I was at the doctor's. And then Tuesday, I went to practice on crutches, and the coach said, well, where were you yesterday? And I said, okay. I said, the doctor told me not even go to school, to stay off my leg for a week. And So, and I was at his office yesterday afternoon after he drained it and stuff. I couldn't even straighten my leg out. So I went home and didn't make practice. So he said, well, you're expected to be here every day, even if you can't play or participate or whatever. So I said, okay. So again, as tough as we were, the Jurewiczes, you know, they play with, you know, with your arms hanging down and your legs on backwards and all the other kind of stuff. I literally went out the next day to practice, and I went with a uniform on. And this was like on a Wednesday, and we used to play Sunday afternoons. And so when I go out there, he said, well, you can't really participate in drills, but what I want you to do is go work on your punting. And I said, okay, first of all, that's the knee that I ruined. How can you expect me to punt with this leg? And he said, well, that'll help strengthen your leg, and you can do this and that. However, I'll give you a center to hike you the ball, and then I'll give you one guy to catch the punts and things. I didn't want to jeopardize anything on the field, but so then he called in Jim. Did he call Jim and Ron? You two guys?
No, just me.
Jim, yeah. So, and he, maybe you want to tell this part of
well, I was with Ken Nelkus at the time, and he says that he said, you know, you can't talk to Mike. And I said, well, he's my brother and I live with him. So what the hell do you mean I can't talk to him? He says, right. Yeah, I don't want you talking to him. All right.
How can a coach in his right mind actually expect that the guy's not going to have a relationship with his brother?
Ron, was he your football coach?
And the baseball coach.
No, but Ron, the same guy that you guys ended up having to have him as a coach after Mike, right?
Right. Yeah, they did.
No, no. Our coach changed. When I was a senior, the coach changed, and we had Warren Brown. So I was my year was the first year we had Warren Brown, and Warren Brown made Ron the fullback. Ron was an end, and they said, all right, well, we got a new coach here. We're going to make Ron the fullback. And I said, all right, well, I'm the quarterback, so I'm going to give him the ball. So,
Ron, I thought Coach Alger, I thought he called you into his office also, didn't he?
No, I was in school then because you were a junior. I was only
eighth grade.
No, you were a freshman. I was a senior.
Oh yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he respected me at all.
Oh, well, I thought the story I heard, and I like my story better, but you know, as you get older, you have these memories, and you don't know if they were dreams or if there were really things that happened, but they make for such good stories that I've actually told a lot of people this story. But I thought he called. Yeah,
I gotta tell the story about when there was a high pressure game for the championship of the league, and Pius was always the arch enemy rival of Marquette High School.
Right.
And Mike pitched in a game against Marquette, where I think Marquette was favored to win. And in those days, you played 7-inning games. Mike struck out 20 out of 21 guys in the game.
Yeah.
21 outs, he struck out 20 in one game.
Yeah. When as the season went on, he would only let me pitch 6 innings because he didn't want me having complete games. So he'd always throw somebody in to pitch the last inning. So yeah, he would do anything he could just to irritate me or whatever. But
Mike, I remember sitting in Candlestick with you and Jim, and you were telling some stories. There was one that I can't remember fully. It was, I think you were playing in the minors, and you were playing in Montreal, and the game time temperature was like 34 degrees.
Yeah.
And
temperature was actually 18 degrees, but yeah.
But the opening pitch went over the batter's head, and he rushes the mound.
Right. Right.
Who was that player?
It was in Toronto. It was a Boston farm team. There was a guy by the name of Reggie Smith.
Reggie Smith. Okay.
Yeah, played for the Dodgers. He played for 3 or 4 different teams, and he was a switch hitter. He was a really good ball player, and I played against him he's actually originally signed by the Twins. And I played against him in rookie ball. He played in Whitfield, and I played, in Harlan, Kentucky. But I played against him. So we were, somewhat friends. At least we, had a relationship from playing against each other and things. But what happened is we went to Toronto to play ball, and the weather was just horrendous. And the first 2 games they called because it was just too cold. And they said, okay, we got to really start playing. So the last game was the warmest day of all of them. It was like 18 degrees, and it was actually snowing, just light flurries and things. So nobody wanted to play. So we went out there, and Reggie Smith was the leadoff hitter. So he went up the bat, and the first pitch I threw it over his head. I mean, I threw like, 98 miles an hour, and it was a beanie that I threw, and it went over his head. He thought I did it on purpose because I was protesting the conditions, and I really didn't do it on purpose. It just, the ball got away from me. It was so cold. My fingers were brittle, and the ball was cold. And when I did that, yeah, I think both teams charged the field, and I think the real reason they charged the field was just to kind of get warm because it was so stinking cold out. But there was a guy by the name of Tony Horton, was a big guy that played for Boston. He was on the team at the time, and so we had a big brawl on the field. The interesting thing was in those days, they didn't really throw people out unless it was really egregious and they knew what was going on. So nobody got thrown out. Once everybody broke up and separated, we went ahead and played the ball game. But yeah, that was crazy. We should not have been playing, but we did, and I did my part in warming everybody up, I guess. So
Reggie Jackson could never hit Mike. Every time Reggie Jackson batted against Mike, Mike would strike him out.
Yeah. Well, what happened is that a good friend of mine, Gil Blanco, who you guys probably know and stuff, but in fact, he also lived with your dad, but he played with the Yankees, and they traded him to Oakland. And we were in AA ball at the time, and Reggie Jackson was playing for Birmingham and Oakland. And so I went out to dinner with Gil and Reggie the night before the ball game we were playing. And I kind of gave Reggie the impression that I was a little crazy, in that you don't really want to dig in there. I'm a left-handed pitcher throwing 98 miles an hour. He's a left-handed hitter who thinks he's going to, be in the Hall of Fame someday, So, so I said, nobody on our team will brush you back. They just give you the whole plate. You dig in there, and you throw it over the plate, and everything they throw, you just mash it. And he was hitting well over 300, and he was killing us. So I said, I just want you to know I'm not that kind of guy, and that I will get you off the plate. So don't be digging in on the plate. So he said, yeah, okay, whatever. So the next day we go out to play, and sure enough, he comes up the bat, and I'm pitching against him, and we kind of look at each other like we know what's going to happen here. So, of course, he doesn't dig in very deep. He kind of just sits in the middle of the box, kind of ready to go either way. And I throw a pitch high and inside, and he goes flying out of there. So he gets back up and thinks, okay, I did what I told him I was going to do. Now I'm going to, man up and just go back and just pitch, one-on-one, and may the best man win. Well, I decided that, you know what, I think I'm going to throw another one, because he really dug in. I mean, he dug in and climbed right up on the plate. And I thought, I'm going to throw another one inside, and I'm not going to maybe as bad as the first one. So I throw the ball inside. Of course, with him digging in, he tried to get out of the way, and the ball hit his bat for a foul ball. So now I got a strike. So now I thought, holy great, I can do whatever I want to do now, So because at 2-0, now I got to come after him and throw strikes. Well, with 1-1 on him, I decided I'm going to brush him back again, because again, he dug in and started climbing in. He thought, you know what, he's not going to do it 3 times in a row. Well, sure enough, I threw it inside again. It wasn't anything that's going to knock him down or anything, but it was enough to send him the message that I was trying to send him. So now he's getting a little antsy, and he doesn't know what to do. So the next pitch, I throw him a curveball. Of course, he thinks it's going to hit him, and it breaks out over the plate. I had a really good curveball. So now it's 2-2. So now he thinks, okay, 2-2, I'm going to give him something to hit, and we'll just go 2-2. I throw it inside again. He goes flying out of there. And so now with 3-2, he doesn't know what to do. Now he believes that I really am crazy and would do almost anything. So the last one I thought, well, you know what? I'll give him a fastball, you know, just to be a good sport about it. I'm going to throw him a fastball, a good fastball, as hard as I can throw, but I'll throw it out over the plate so he can hit it if he hits it. Well, I wound up, started my delivery to the plate, and before I even released the ball, he just kind of stood up and started leaning back out of the batter's box, and the ball was right down the heart of the plate, and he just walked out. I struck him out, and after the game, we talked about it, and he actually kind of laughed about it. I laughed about it and said, you know what? I hope I never have to hit against you ever again, because you are crazy, and I don't want to end my career by digging in against a guy who's going to hit me with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So, but yeah, so that's, you know, one of my Hall of Fame stories. Reggie's in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah. Yeah. So
You did that. You did that in Little League too, Mike.
Little League, yeah, with my friends and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What was that little blonde-haired kid's name?
Gary Schoonover.
Gary Schoonover. 10-year-old kid. He did the same thing to him, threw it at his head.
Well, he was actually a pretty good friend of mine, and he was a left-handed hitter, so that was the problem. He was a left-handed hitter, and I was a left-handed pitcher. What happened was that I wasn't trying to throw at him. I wasn't even trying to hit him because he was a fairly easy out. He was a left-handed hitter, so all those lefties were easy outs for me. What I did was I threw him a curveball. When I threw him a curveball, it was kind of going at his head, and he decided instead of just jumping out of the way, he was going to crouch down to get out of the way. Well, the ball kept breaking down, following him as he's crouching down, and it hit him in the head. It hit him on his helmet because he had a helmet on. It was a curveball, so it wasn't as hard, but it did hit him on the helmet, and the helmet cut his ear and stuff, and so it's not good. But I mean, he also knew I wasn't throwing at him. I never told him I was going to throw at him, but it was just one of those weird things that happened. But yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, guys knew I was. Yeah, I was actually a switch hitter, but I batted right-handed all through high school. I always had the ability to hit left-handed, but I hit for a better percentage, right-handed. So I always batted right-handed. I hit for more power left-handed because my left arm was driving through the ball. So I always hit for more power there. When I went to play pro ball, I had a minor league manager one time that said, have you ever thought about hitting left-handed? And I said, why? And he said, well, because when you bat right-handed, you're exposing your left elbow to the pitcher. And if you got hit in the elbow, you could end up with a serious injury. So if you bat left-handed, you're at least not exposing the elbow and stuff. So then I used to bat.
Before designated hitters.
This was before in the minors, they, never really had them back then anyway. But yeah, so anyway, so then I started hitting left-handed. And actually was a pretty good hitter left-handed. So, I got my share of base hits left-handed. But, so I was a switch hitter through the minors. Well, then my next year in the minors, I was taking batting practice one time, and our manager was pitching batting practice. And I went up to left-handed, took a few swings right-handed, then I went up left-handed. And when I went up to left-handed, I hit a line drive right through the middle, and it hit him in the arm. It hit him pretty solid and hurt him pretty bad, and he was pretty upset about it. And he said, why are you hitting left-handed anyway? You should be batting right. You're a right-handed hitter, aren't you? And I said, yeah, but last year coach, he said, I don't really care. I don't want you hitting left-handed. And he said, why are you doing it? And I said, well, he said, well, you still could get hit this way. Getting out of the way, it'd be even worse because you get hit on the inside of your elbow, which is, more vulnerable. So, and he wouldn't let me hit left-handed anymore. So, but the very first time I ever batted left-handed in pro ball, I got a base hit. So, it was just a ball hit up the middle. It wasn't a rocket or anything, but it was a base hit. So I always felt good about that. Well, when I first played pro ball, there was a guy by the name of Bob Masterson, and he was against the Orioles, and he was a bonus pitcher, a left-handed bonus pitcher for the Orioles. got a lot of money. He was their top signee that year. And so I came up to bat my first year, or my first time in pro ball. And, you know, when you go play rookie ball, everybody's a star, you know, everybody was a star in the high school team and things. So guys would ask me if I was a good hitter, and I'd say, yeah, I was a really good hitter. I'm a good hitter. Led my team in high school and blah, blah, blah. And I used to actually brag about my hitting and things. And so the first time I went up to bat, they said, okay, yeah, let's see what hot shot hitter, how good of a hitter you are. I know hitting against, you know, professional pitching and things. So this guy came and threw a ball. In fact, it was a curveball. It was a pretty good curveball, and I always just happened to be in a zone. Well, I hit a home run my very first time at bat. So they, as they circle the bases, you know, you know, there's a thing they do in baseball where they give you the cold shoulder, you know, and they want to give you a hard time, just teasing. So after I went all the way around the bases, came into the dugout there, nobody just said anything. Nobody did anything to congratulate me. They didn't do anything at all. And just kind of gave me a hard time. But that lasts about, you know, 10 seconds, and then they all jump up and congratulate you and stuff. But it's one of those fun things that ball players always have with each other when, you know, when they do that. You'll see it in the big leagues a lot. The guy will hit a home run, and you'll see him going to the dugout, and, you know, everybody will ignore him and things. So
Tell him the Ralph Houck story.
I was having a pretty good season. I was in Double-A at the time, in fact, and we were playing a ball game in Charlotte, and again, it was against the Twins. It was the Charlotte Hornets, and there was a Twins Double-A farm team. I was having a pretty good season in Double-A, and Ralph Houck decided to come down and watch me pitch. And we were playing.
Ralph Houck was the manager of the Yankees at the time.
He actually was a general manager at the time. He managed the Yankees a few years before that, and then they promoted him to general manager. So he was a general manager at the time, and he came down. We were playing a doubleheader, and our two best pitchers on the team were pitching. I was pitching, another guy was pitching, so he thought this is a good opportunity to see both guys pitch. Well, the game that he came down to watch me pitch, I pitched a no-hitter. So I think that was one of the things that actually got me to the big leagues as much as anything, because they said after the game, you know, Ralph Houck came up to talk to me and said, well, did you know I was here at the game? And I said, yeah, you know, they told me you were there in the stands. So they said, okay, well, if you were able to perform at that high level, knowing that I was there with all the pressure on you and the nerves and this and that, whatever, you know, then obviously, but just getting back to high school a little bit, because we never really did. Yep. So when we went through the baseball season, we had a exhibition game that we were going to play before the season actually started, and Andy Pafko wanted to come and watch me pitch. And this is after I had not been able to practice with the team. I was always practicing on my own. And the coach came up to me and said, okay, well, I want you to pitch today because Andy Pafko is coming to watch you pitch, so I want you to pitch. And I kind of resented it and said, you know what, you don't let me practice with the team, and now in order to make you look good, you want me to pitch, you know, for Andy Pafko. And I guess I wasn't, you know, I was a little insolent myself and wasn't, you know, I treated him the way he treated me, and I gave him as much respect as I could, you know, gritting my teeth and tensing all my muscles. But that time there, I said, you know what, my arm doesn't feel very good. I don't think I can pitch today, so I really would rather not pitch. So it was kind of a little payback to him, because then he had to go to Andy Pafko and explain to him, you know, why I wasn't pitching or whatever. So what I wanted to do was go to Andy Pafko and say, you know what, my arm's tired from throwing all these balls against the fence, because that's what the coach makes me do every day. But yeah, I just let it go at that. So, but
so
anyway,
you did end up getting him his first state championship, though.
Yeah. So we went through the season. We were undefeated through the entire season, and we went to the state tournament. The first game of the state tournament, I pitched a no-hitter. It was probably the easiest no-hitter I ever pitched, because I don't know if you remember earlier, I said Don Bosco won the championship the year before when I was a junior. We beat them during the season. I pitched a shutout against them. In fact, I had like 17 or 18 strikeouts against them. So we get to the game, and I find out after the game, the coach says to these guys, you can't hit him. So other than these two batters, the number 3 and 4 hitters in the lineup, everybody else, I want you to try to bunt to get on base. So because you're not going to be able to hit them anyway, you're just going to end up striking all you guys out. I don't know what coach would tell their team that. I expect them to go out and win after telling them that. And they were a good ball club. They had a good team. So anyway, guys were going up there trying to bunt, and they're bunting like line drives to the third baseman and to me on the mound, and the pitcher, they're bunting hard ground balls, or they're just bunting and missing altogether. And he would make them bunt on third strike as well. So you bunt on a third strike, AJ, and you hit a foul ball, you're out. It's an automatic strikeout. So I still had like 12 or strikeouts that day with guys just bunting the entire game. So, but I ended up pitching a no-hitter. So the only two guys he let hit didn't hit me either. So, so that was on a Friday. We played on a Saturday, won that game, and then Sunday we played for the state championship. And then of course I pitched that game as well. So, you know, not always easy to pitch 2 games in 3 days, but so we did win we won that game, won the state championship. So the coach got to get his one and only state championship he ever won as a high school coach. So it's just crazy. But we also had a catcher on our team. He was also the quarterback on our football team. You know, pretty good athlete, and he got an appointment to West Point. He was, you know, went to West Point, to college, and for some reason, he didn't like the idea that I used to get all the headlines and all the attention and everything else. So when we played baseball, he played with a really, really bad attitude. And we played one ball game, and there were a lot of scouts in the stands, and I was pitching, and it was against St. Kate's in Racine. And I struck a guy out. The ball went off his glove and rolled back to the backstop. Well, he just stood up and literally walked back to get the ball, picked it up. Well, by the time he picked it up, the guy was already on first base and stuff. So, and they played the whole game that way with his, you know, head, you know, where. So the next day, the coach calls me into his office, and I said, yeah, what's up, coach? And he said, I think you need to apologize to Chet. And his nickname was Buzz Jurewicz. But he said, I think you need to apologize to Chet. And I said, okay, well, what am I apologizing for? And he said, well, he's kind of upset because you're getting all the attention, you're getting all the headlines, and, you know, and he's just, you know, in a lousy mood. He's not playing very well, and he's a good ball player. And I think if you apologize to him, that'll make things better. And I said, okay, so you want me to go apologize to him because I'm getting the headlines? I said, I don't write the headlines. I don't do any of that. And I said, if somebody came up to me and apologized because I'm getting all the attention and things, I would almost think that he was shoving it in my face. So I said, I'm not going to apologize to him. And to me, it would be an insult for somebody to come and apologize for that. So I never did apologize to him. I did have a talk with Chet because we were good friends. You know, like I said, he was a quarterback on the football team. But he just had a bad attitude. I mean, he had a bad attitude in football. He had a bad attitude because he always wanted to be the star. He knew his senior year. He played hard his whole career. He knew he was going to be the big star his senior year in football and in baseball. And he was a good football player, a good baseball player. But so we had a talk, and everything was fine after that. But no way am I going to apologize to somebody because some guy put my name in the headlines, you know. It's just,
did you win the state championship your senior year?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then he quit as being a coach the following year, or how did they
played one more year after that? He coached one more year after that. So here's the other thing. He was also the athletic director. We used to have this award that we would give out at our high school. It was a blanket with a big P on it for Pius High School. We went to Pius High School. And we used to give this award out every year. And so my senior year, I was all state in football, obviously baseball, we won a state championship, and basketball, I was, you know, made the all-state tournament team, honorable mention all-state in basketball. So it was pretty clear that, you know, I was the best athlete on the team, certainly on paper. Well, that year, Coach Elger, who was also the athletic director, decided they weren't going to give the award out that year. Money than the Yankees. And then Art Stewart came in. He was a scout, made his pitch and stuff. So we talked about it. And then we had, the decision to make, do I go play football in college? Or the interesting thing about that story is that Art Stewart, he's like in his 80s now, still alive, but he wrote a book. And in the book, he wrote about, and he actually devoted a section in the book to when he signed me and said, yeah, I remember I snuck in the back door, went down, and that was the first that I actually even heard about that he had actually done that and stuff. So then this book here, the guy canned me one day, can you see that? It's called A Cup of Coffee. So
yeah.
AJ, when you go play Major League Baseball and you don't have a very long career there, there's a term that they use. It's like going up there and having a cup of coffee. This guy wrote a book. His uncle was actually a pitcher in the major leagues. He pitched for the Tigers. This guy's name is Rob Trucks, and he's from New York. He decided that he wanted to write a book about all these guys that, could have had long major league careers, and for whatever reasons, injury, their careers got cut short. Well, he devoted one chapter in the book to me. It's about 30 pages. This is the beginning of the chapter in the book. Do I have it?
Raise it a little bit more. Yeah, there you go.
So this is the book. On this side is the box score from the very first game I ever pitched, and then this here was just a picture of me and in the Yankee uniform. And then he goes on to tell my story. He called me one day and said, if I came to town, would you be willing to sit down with me? And here's my baseball card, by the way, EJ. So he came to town, and we went to Perkins, in fact, in Apple Valley over on 42 and Cedar Avenue. And so we went there and spent a couple of hours having lunch and stuff and interviewing for the book. Kind of cool. So, it's nice to be immortalized, I guess, even if it's just in print. So what happened was, I think I hurt my elbow during the off season. I used to play basketball. We actually used to play touch football, with Jim and Ron, and my brother Fran also played. But when I played basketball, and I was always pretty intense and pretty competitive. I'm not sure I was the most competitive one in the family, but I used to play hard with a lot of desire, a lot of passion. And one time I got undercut when I was going up for a rebound. When I got undercut, I came down and landed on my elbow. And I think what happened was I cracked my elbow. Didn't realize that I just came down hard and thought, wow, this really hurts. So anyway, I went to play baseball the next year. And when I was playing, I would go out and feel really good, and I'd be throwing hard. And then all of a sudden I'd go out for an inning to pitch, and I could barely get the ball to home plate. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so, I just came out of the game. The next game I'd go out and, sometimes I'd be warming up and I would have issues. Other times I could pitch a whole game, not have an issue. So I said, I really need to go see a doctor, find out what's going on. And they thought I was just some flaky left-hander that was looking for some attention or just trying to, make myself look better than I really am or whatever. But so after a few of these starts, they said, okay, there obviously is something going on. So they sent me to the doctor, and they did x-rays, and they found out that my elbow was cracked. So when I landed on it, it actually cracked and just formed a little pincher. So when the nerve would get in there and pinch the nerve, that was when I couldn't throw. There was so much pain, it just wouldn't, my body wouldn't allow me to throw through that much pain. So they said, okay, there obviously is an issue. We're going to do surgery. So we're just going to send you home, and we'll let you know when we're going to do the surgery. Well, then they sent all the x-rays to the doctor in New York, and he came back and said, you know what, he really can't hurt his arm at all. So the way he's playing now, it's probably better off for him just to pitch. Whenever he can pitch, he can pitch. And when he tells you he can't throw, yeah, obviously you got to take him at his word and take him out. So I finished off the season just throwing whenever I could. And again, sometimes I'd have complete games. Other times, like like I said, I couldn't, other times I couldn't even warm up. So
Was that the 65 season?
that was in 65. Yep. No, it was in 64 actually. So,
So it couldn't have been. You graduated in 63, so it was, you were in the minors.
63 I played rookie ball.
Yeah.
63 I played rookie ball. Yeah, because in 65 I was in the majors. So,
Okay.
So what happened was, 64 I played at Fort Lauderdale, and that was when I was having issues and things. So at the end of the season, they decided to operate, and so I went to New York, and there was a guy by the name of Dr. Sidney Gaynor that was their surgeon, and it was Lenox Hill Hospital. I don't know if you know where Lenox Hill is down, but Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City. But what they had to decide was where these two pincher was forming, do they try to scrape these surfaces, put a pin in there and just mend it back together, or should they just break this piece off? Well, the doctor decided to break the piece off. Well, in breaking the piece off, there was a ligament attached to it, so they had to detach the ligament and reattach it to what was left of my elbow. So they did the surgery, and this was before Tommy John and everything, you know, otherwise they would have probably had a whole different approach to it. So they did the surgery. The surgery appeared to be a success, but the doctor at home said, you know what, you really need to give up a year of your career to let this thing heal. It'll be good as new in a year, but if you go out and try to throw, you're just going to have the potential. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you might hurt your arm if you do that. So they said, go ahead and just go throw, you know, whenever you can and stuff. So, so I said, you know, the Yankee doctor, I told the Yankees that. And again, they thought I was a prima donna, and they said, no, we talked to the Yankee doctor and he said, you should be fine. You know, if you just lay off during the winter season, come spring training, you should be okay. We'll approach it kind of easy. And, you know, so we did that. And when I went to spring training, I was fine. You know, everything felt pretty good. So I said, oh, you know, so maybe I'm good. You know, maybe it all healed on. And I didn't throw. I probably threw about 80% through most of spring training. And then when the season started, I threw 100%. And I threw really well and went through the whole season. And that was the year that I got called up. And towards the end of the season, the first half of the season, you know, I was, you know, had really good stats. My ERA was like under 2. And so second half of the season, I started having arm problems, and I thought I was just tired. They thought I was, you know, throwing too much and throwing too many pitches and what have you. So, so they thought I just had a tired arm, and that was the only issue. Well, apparently there was the ligament that was having troubles with. So they wanted me to go play winter ball after the season because I got called up to New York and this is your opportunity. So I went to play winter ball, but I played in Florida. They had a winter ball league in Florida. And in Florida, the ligament tore off my elbow. So, you know, it's just too much throwing, pitching the whole season and then going to winter ball. I should have just rested that and I probably would have been fine. Well, so I struggled through the winter ball season. When I went to spring training, I didn't have much rest because I played winter ball, so I had maybe a month off or so. When I went to spring training, I kept re-injuring my elbow and kept having issues with it. And couldn't throw nearly as hard as I used to. So, yeah, so all through the 1966 season, I started in AAA, ended up getting sent down because I wasn't very effective. And 57 season, I played AA ball for all of that year, and again, wasn't very effective because, you know, I just kept having arm issues, and even when it didn't tear off or anything, it was still causing me all kinds of problems. So finally, after, you know, at the time, I got married at the end of the 65 season. Jennifer was born on the #1 anniversary, right to the day on our first anniversary. And then when I went to spring training in '68, Juliet was due in July of that year. So, so I was about to have my second child. Well, the last day of spring training, they said, you know what, we're going to send you down. So, and this was from AA. And I said, okay, well, there's no, for me to go down to A ball and play. If I'm successful there, you would say, well, you expected me to be successful at the AA level. At least I'm within reach of, the major leagues or AAA or whatever. So if I go there and perform, and they said, well, we have a lot of guys we got to cut, and we have this and that, whatever. We just don't have an opportunity for you on our AA roster. So I said, okay. In those days, it was commonplace to option ball players out to other teams that had needs. So you would still own their rights, but you would play for another team. In fact, I went and played with the White Sox that way. So played in Evansville. So anyway, in spring training, when we talked about it, they said, you know what, we aren't interested in going through that effort, making that effort. So maybe it's best if we just give you your release and you can see if you can go hook up on your own. So this was before they had agents. And this was, they also wanted me to play winter ball before that season, and I refused to play. So they weren't happy with that decision either. I said, I need to rest my arm. So, from that, I kind of felt like the Yankees blackballed me a little bit. I'm sure the Braves called the Yankees and said, what do you think? Is this guy worth taking a chance or whatever? And they, certainly didn't have to say, well, he has a bad arm or this or that or whatever. They could have just said, you know what, give him a shot and, judge for yourself. So sponsor.
Well, this was also before free agency. So the Kurt Flood.
That's what I said. Nobody had an agent at the time. It was before free agent. And being left-handed who throws 98 miles an hour with averaging more than one strike out an inning, what a rare commodity left-handed pitchers are. So if it would have happened in today's day and age, I mean, they're signing guys that are, 30 years old, that they think might have an opportunity to help them. So anyway, I went home and pitched in amateur ball and had a, phenomenal summer season. And in fact, I pitched a no-hitter in the state tournament there in that game. And I had an opportunity. In fact, we were moving from Milwaukee to Minnesota. And I was going to go to work, for your dad. And on my way to Minnesota, packed up my car, actually stopped in Madison. The state tournament was in Madison. Packed up my car, it was a little Mazda, drove to Madison, pitched the no-hitter, got in my car and drove the rest of the way to Minnesota after the game. Played some ball in Minnesota, did really well there. Had an opportunity to sign with the Twins, at least had a meeting with them, about possibly signing a contract with them. And believe it or not, I actually met with Kelvin Griffin and a scout. And when we talked about it, Kelvin Griffin said, you know what, we'll give you an opportunity if you want to come to spring training, but we're not going to give you any money unless you make a team. And in fact, we're not going to pay for any of your expenses in spring training. I said, okay, well, are you sure that's your position? Yeah, just don't think I want to do that. I have a wife at home that doesn't want any part of baseball, doesn't want me to play. I got 2 kids. I come from a big family. I've always been family oriented. I always believed that if I wasn't going to make baseball when I was younger, I was going to get out and get on with my life. So all of those things came into play. And I said, you know what, if I can't get you to pay for me in spring training, how the heck could I ever be able to negotiate a contract with you, So I just passed on the opportunity, and that was the last real opportunity I had to play pro ball. So there's no doubt in my mind that I could have gone back and played ball. And after playing ball, I always loved coaching, and I got a pretty good head on my shoulders and felt like I could have stuck around baseball for a long time, even in a coaching capacity. Certainly that whole experience does humble you in a lot of ways, but it also gives you a strong education on the real world life and real world people. And so it helped me to grow a lot. It also prepared me to go play ball when I was only 17 years old. And, living on my own and things, I, felt adult enough to do that, even though it was the very first time I had ever been away from home. So,
Right.
yeah.
See you guys.
Give him a hug. Okay. Yeah, give Shelly a hug.
Love you, Mike. Love you, Jim.
Yeah, Ryan and Tyler, good to see you.
Hey, Jim.
John, thanks for putting it together. AJ,
AJ, enjoy your report.
good luck. Good luck when you sign with the Yankees, AJ.
Yeah. Yep. So the only thing I would say, AJ, is that, you know what, just play hard, play with passion. You'll hear announcers on, and you'll hear coaches talk about ball players, and they say that guy really has a lot of heart. He plays with a lot of heart. And all that means is that he's really passionate about what he does. And when you say they're passionate, you're saying that they love something as much as you can possibly love anything. And the love for that turns into a lot of positive energy. It gives you a desire to play. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to fail. So take risks all through your life.